Hello, Libero lovelies. I have a new recording set up, so if I sound like a PIMP, that's why, but I'm now testing with OBS to do our recording, so I figure this is a perfect opportunity to read more disgruntled investor messages for Libero Financial, because maybe someday, things will get easier with the eco. I doubt it, but I'm optimistic, and I'm going to use my platform to do what I can at cryptotalkradio.net to spread the word of how investors are feeling. Cannot be described as FUD because this is information you can verify yourself is truly coming from the investors out there. They're being pretty clear that they're not happy, and I like to make sure at the end of the day, if they're not happy, nobody's happy, and the project's not going to go anywhere. Mind you, with what I'm going to cover, because you can see it yourself on Twitter, it doesn't matter that Crypto Talk Radio allegedly doesn't know what he's talking about, because I'm not going to do anything other than share my observation of what you yourself can see. So in order to kind of settle this, I need a little bit of help here. And the first that I saw from the Libero account was around, so to explain what this message is around. As they went all in on these miners, the banks kind of got left behind. However, they added this multiplicative reward system around the banks. You stake in Libera Bank, you get X Libera. You stake in Libero Bank, you get X Libero. You stake in the Liberator Bank, and it's basically your liquidity staking. So the way they did this now is you have to basically be a whale, dump tens of thousands of dollars in this business, and in exchange, they would provide you these multiplicative rewards from the miner. Well, they also had this contest going on specifically around some of this where they said you can win money, in this case, Binance USD. And if you win off this, you have to do a whole bunch of stuff, you know, the garbage gleam.io and all this crap. And then they run a random number service with all the different addresses, and it comes back with a winner, and they contact them. Now, I've done this not with Liberator or Libero or Libera. I did do this with Any Printer, which is dead now, but I won that, yay. And they became worthless tokens because, of course, everybody was pissed off because they're like, this doesn't seem really fair because it's not really random, even though it's perfectly random. What they wanted was who's the most popular, and of course that skews towards the people who use the word Jeet and all the little kids. And so I actually like the fact that they're using random.org, but then, okay, this is a thing, we give away the Lambo and all that garbage, right? Notice how many entrants you have, only shy of 17,000 entrants. This is just on the Libera side. Now, the Libero side had almost 150,000 holders. I said in my past video that this means that you failed in appealing to those people in Libera's launch to get them to buy in. They assumed people would just jump into the business. It didn't happen, right? Okay, well, still, you can win 20,000 Binance USD and a brand new Lambo with us, and the next winner can be you, but, quote, prize and BUSD will be zapped to Libero BUSD liquidity pool and deposited as in locked in Liberator Bank for 1 year. This was nowhere on any of their marketing. And if you go back to one of my earlier ones, and I believe it was when Libera Bank first launched, I believe that's when it was. One of my early videos, I actually called out this whole Lambo business and the Binance USD business. I don't see how they're going to make this work and how they're going to sustain it because they're running out of money. And the way you know they're running out of money, when they were going to do the drops, right, there's a monthly drop, and these were supposed to be coming out of a pool that's built on the volume. Well, volume's down, and since volume's down, they were running out of money. So they had to delay paying people, and then they switched it over to the farming wallet. I covered in one of my other videos that the farming profits are down. They're not actually increasing, they're down, mostly because of the bear market. Well, you can only pay, there's only 400,000 some odd dollars in there, and they do 100,000 a month. It's insolvent because you don't have this wallet that you allocated for this purpose anymore. It ain't working because you ran out of money. So now they're basically gutting this farming profits wallet. Well, if you got the farming profits wallet, you got this other one, what do you have left? Just the marketing and dev wallet. Now, mind you, the marketing and dev wallet, in my mind, hasn't even been touched and hasn't been used because they're not doing any active marketing outside of the shillers that they started going after and an occasional thing on social media. Well, what's going on with the other millions of dollars that's of marketing that's not been used? So when I saw this, I'm like, okay, that's going to piss some people off. And if you're in the liberal ecosystem listening to me here and you followed, or you haven't, but if you're listening to me and you truly were pissed, like I suspected was going to happen in my early video, where I predicted exactly they were going to do something like this, that they were not going to actually pay you and they're going to lock it in the bank. And then locking in the bank's actually smart for the health of the project, but it's not what you promised. What you promised is we're going to pay you 20 grand. And it's Binance USD. So the problem is that by putting it to a liquidity pool, Libera, Binance USD, you're not actually getting the true value of the thing because Libera is crapping. So if you're in it and you're watching it and you're pissed off, I'd love to hear from you down below, comments, or at cryptotalkradio.net. Let us know what you think. I figured there's got to be some pissed off people about this because that's not what they promised. So given this, I knew where I was saying is the truth. And despite them thinking that Crypto Talk Radio doesn't know what he's talking about, I called this exact thing happening at some point because they're running out of money. And they can't justify just straight pay. They want to try to keep you in the ecosystem and lock you in. I'm going to maintain my recommendation, which is do not, in my opinion, do not, if you're going to buy in, don't go into the bank because it's a trap. Even if you don't go in the bank, and I'll cover this here momentarily, I don't know that it's really that big of a deal. So as I was going through my usual to just watch the investor sentiments out there, I ran across some very interesting things, starting with Mr. Jarek McSalt, who says, quote, can't withdraw my deposited amount. Every transaction is costly. He's referring now to Libera and the miner. I'm pretty sure he's talking about the miner. He might be talking about, because he says every transaction, he's probably talking about the miner because the miner hits you with a fee when you do the withdrawal. When you do a claim, even if you do the compound, it still hits you with a fee. It'll be like, yeah, you save 80%, it's still a fee. And if you calculate, there was actually some people on YouTube that calculated it out and said, it's not worth it. You're actually losing to where it's no longer worth this business. This is a joke and I'm not making any money. That's what Mr. McSalt is referring to. User Young Orca says, quote, Libera is founder of Libero Financial. That's not really true. Libero is the founder of Libero regardless. He then posted an image from CZ Binance who had said, quote, be wary of founders that move from project to project. Now, this isn't necessarily, it is accurate in the sense of jumping to shinies, but I think what CZ Binance was referring to is really the car salesman of Seifu, right? Where he had projects that rug pulled allegedly, and then he just jumped to this new thing that's a totally new project in a totally new specter and kind of said, oh, forget about all this business. I'm not associated with that anymore. Or Car Salesman 2.0 with Lock Pay. He killed Made of Gold and Doge, whatever that was. I think that's more what CZ was talking about, but it does apply in the Libero ecosystem because it's the same thing. You're jumping to shinies. And this was just recently that CZ said this, whether it was a direct shot at Libero or one of the other people, nobody knows, but it is appropriate to say you should be kind of cautious when they move. And I called it out as a risk early on. They've done this before with, again, Garuda and Cerberus and Multiverse and Epic Hero and then Libera and then Libero, and and it's a pattern with them. And yes, as I said, ultimately they said you're going to make some money. That was still true. I never at any point said that the project's legit. I said that the devs, they're not trying to rip you off, at least. They're not trying to. If you're going to lose money, you're losing money because of incompetence. It's still a problem, but it's a different thing. But you should always be nervous. And that's why I say don't YOLO into the business, because I suspected something might go wrong because it wasn't built for the bear market. User Shitter Thumbs says, quote, scam warning, do not buy Libero or Libera. Do not participate in the miner or the bank. Highest tax, 45%, lowest APY. They change contract to trap you. Please don't lose your money here like I did. Stay safe. I did not see a change of contract as he describes. What he may be referring to is the tax change, which is not a contract change. It's built in the contract to call a function to change the tax. That's what he's probably referring to. Now, the thing is, yes, it's a trap in what it does because of why they did it, but this was DAO voted. The DAO vote is what drove these tax changes because the community voted on higher tax because they're trying to stop sales. What I've repeatedly said in almost every one of my videos, it's not going to solve the problem. If you go to my whale video, I said you're just kicking the can down the road. You've got to fix the underlying problem. The problem with Libero, biggest issue is they printed too much freaking supply. That's the biggest issue. But you also have a sentiment problem. They don't want to talk to Crypto Talk Radio. They refused. They don't want to fix Libero at all. They keep going forward with new shinies. They keep changing the game where they lock you into the bank and then drop the rewards of some kind, drop the benefits that you were locked in. They're not acting to engender trust and confidence in the project. That's really the biggest thing here. The tax was voted on. I don't think people understood what they were voting on because it was pretty clear, yeah, we're going to be bumping the tax on this business. All people could think of is we got to stop the sales. Tax doesn't do that, as I've called out in my videos. User Kryptonet says, quote, why only devs and bots are here? Referring to Twitter, of course. The reason is because most of the people in Libero are beating these guys up in Telescam. They're not commenting on Twitter because most of them are still trying to either get their money back or they're upset or they're pissed off and then they end up getting banned and then they just don't go to Reddit or something else or just stay silent and just wait, or they've gone to some other project and they just forgot about it. It's locked in the bank. It's not like you can do anything because if you cash out, it's 90% gone. Speaking of, I actually did cash out my Liberator stake and my Libera stake. It's not much money, but my logic was I might as well just distribute what's there to the community for something. It's not a lot. You're not going to get enriched off what I did. But I figured might as well do that. I'll keep the Libero because it frankly ain't worth a damn. Even if I did do it, the Libero is so dang low, it's totally not worth it. And then my F Libero is still somewhat profitable, even though it's going down. And I'm going to talk about that at the tail end. User Joaquim Solheim says, quote, this is a scam. Don't buy it. User Ramnik Singh, you know you fucked this project. User Don John Prod. So what's next? Libero? What the fuck? User Thinker says, quote, why when you win the biggest daily deposit, so he's referring to in the miner, there's this game where you have to log in at a certain time and deposit a certain amount, and then they gift you in your depository, whatever that balance is what he's talking about. Quote, doesn't it add up to the maximum payout? I want to address that first. Stop. So what he's talking about here is down here is a screen of what you'd see if you're in the miner. You get your fund, what you deposited, what you've accumulated, how much you've claimed, and if it's like, what the hell's going on? It's because the claim is once every 7 days. So that's why his is so dang low. And he had just won this new deal. Then the daily return. Here's what he's talking about. What he's asking is why is it that so if I have a max payout of, in this case, shortly under 13 grand, right? Because that's going to be off the accumulated to get it back. But your daily return is just shy of $400. Well, something's weird here. Here's what he didn't know. And I'm going to scroll down and show here. Quote, RH. And RH has been on YouTube, I believe. Quote, it gets added to your accumulated total, which is what your daily rewards are based on. It increases your daily return immensely and decreases your ROI to a fraction of the time. If you want it to increase your max payout, just redeposit claims. I'm going to try my best to explain what the heck's going on here. So, because he's correct, it's just, here's the thing. The daily return, the way that they did this is primarily baked around the deposit amount, not the accumulated amount. So this guy, its number is always going to be a percentage of this, not necessarily this. You can test that because if you were to have basically, let's say you bumped this to 10 grand. So it's double plus a little bit. You should see this guy go to roughly about, $800-900. That's how you know it's around the deposit amount. The accumulated, if you won that award, doesn't count as a deposit because you didn't do it. The whole point of the game is you need to add money to this. You need to deposit money. You need to pay into the thing. That's how they built the thing, is you need to pay into it. It's not that you win the reward and then you don't have to pay anymore. They want you to pay more. So it's not that he has a high daily return. It's good for, frankly, right? Anybody would want $400 a day. Like, think about that. Very few people make that in a regular wage job. So his daily is actually pretty damn good. It's just not as high as he thought it would be based on the fact that he won this thing. If I were him, having won it, and apparently he was okay going in it and winning in it, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Now, what he does have to be worried about is its liquidity pool off the return. Obviously, Libero is crapping. So the value he should expect is going to dwindle because his returns are not coming through a stable coin. It's coming through the liquidity pair, and 50% of it is losing value, which is why his claim is not going to be significantly high, because this is going to be going back. He'll basically have to compound it, right? So he compounds it. It's going to basically put this number up by $400 a day. That's still pretty damn good, but he's not going to be able to claim significant amounts of this business because of the way it works. The next time around, so after another cycle of 7, he should be able to get one day where he can claim off whatever the value of this is. And then going forward, it's 1 day a week, so $400 a week, which is above minimum wage in most places. So it's still not terrible, but it's not going to be what he might have thought it would be. This is where you needed to make sure that you know when they tell you, okay, when you win or any of this, it's going here. And this is going to be based on what you put in, not necessarily this here. It's not a problem because you can always just compound, and eventually it's going to go up. But at some point, I do that basically just gets you here, pulling this business. So I personally don't think, because if you look at his share, there's so many whales in it. His is good for everybody else, but compared to everybody else that's like the whale tier, it's probably a fraction. That's probably what he's resonating with. This is also mattering. You got to pay attention to that too. That, well, compared to everybody else, what other, goes back to the Floyd Mayweather thing. Who's paying him? Those people are bankrolling. But not bad returns in what he's got. Of course, he's not going to get any of this money back. None of this goes to him directly. It's locked. It's theirs, essentially. He can't withdraw this. He can only rely on this, which is still not bad, but just so you know, he cannot ever get that money back. So then the Libera financial account talked about, we're rebranding. It's now going to be the Libera BUSD miner, whatever. Kryptonic, quote, Devs, what do you think about Ponzi scheme? Familiar with that shit? And then he actually pronounced that out, which I thought was pretty cool. I want to clarify, this does not fit necessarily the technical definition of a Ponzi scheme. I'll tell you why. The miner, you are required to pay into it, and then you get a return from what you paid in. What you pay in isn't enriching anybody else because it doesn't directly help Libero holders. So by technical, I'm talking the technical black letter definition, does not qualify as a Ponzi. Could qualify as a pyramid scheme. Why? Because in order to increase your take, you got to have the referral that's at the bottom there, or you have to keep pumping money into it to strengthen it so that others can benefit from it, but they're not directly benefiting from your deposit. That would be a Ponzi. This doesn't qualify by technical definition. It does fit very close to a pyramid scheme, and that's by design. It's the same model that Drip did, and Drip is essentially a pyramid scheme the same way. And that's Kryptonit. So now, the Libero, this is where they delayed the drops. This is for the Binance USD once a month. They delayed the drops and said, we got to figure out what we're going to do. User Buddha at the Fish says, quote, why don't you fix the flaws in Libero code instead of inventing and dropping the next gimmick, which is the next shiny. User Safe Moon Alabama, quote, just get it back to the all-time high. We'll understand. That's never going to happen. User Cruz O says, quote, did you notice Libero's price? LOL, please, the dev and the whole team eat poison for making people's money to no value. Shit. I'm not advocating that you feed any sort of poisonous anything to anybody. It wouldn't be possible anyway because the dev refuses to show his face. Regardless, this is a harm to investor sentiment that we are seeing. People are not happy with what's happening despite them. And this, I think, I would call this a failure. They've never, from what I can recall, they've never had to postpone that drop because the money was just flowing. It was flowing. So it was just a wallet that was accumulated based on volume, and they've never had to backtrack off of it. I treat this as a failure on them, and it's a red flag because it meant they ran out of money. That's what that means. User Buddha at the fish again, quote, start fixing the code of Libero Financial. We need to apply pressure on them now. Otherwise, they'll simply continue to build on their faulty code. It's time now. User Shitter, quote, these guys don't listen to us, pal. We've been asking from us, no avail. Of course, Crypto Talk Radio, found at cryptotalkradio.net, Leicester has also been trying to do it, and the community outreach to try to get them to talk to Leicester, and they refused, flat out refused, and then instead went to Shiller's. I challenge the community. Did the Shillers they started going after for the miner make any damn difference whatsoever in what you saw? And if Dion's listening to this, because I know Dion's been in the ecosystem, and Dion felt like, no, this is up. No, it's not. Because as I said, Libera cannot survive without Libero. That's why I'm so emphatic about Libero. And they send tweets that say, yeah, we burned 4 billion. When you got quadrillions of supply, you got a long way to go, bro. It's just like with SHIB. So I'm not sold, and I never will be sold. And at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do because they don't want to chat with me, and that's cool. That's their project. I'm saying numerous people in the community have been trying to get them to stop and fix Libero, and they don't want to. Well, that should be a red flag to any and everybody, which is why I refuse to give them any more money, even though I get tempted because F Libero is still profitable, and I would love to bank on it because F Libero is still paying really, really well. And if I have the money, I could put it over there. Since I can't trust the devs, I certainly am not going to enrich them. I just toss it into some bots on KuCoin. Well, you shouldn't want that. If you really want me as an investor, you shouldn't want me to take my spare money, which was a decent amount. It had made me a whale on Libero, but I'd rather put it in KuCoin and let it make money over there because I knew that even in the red, I'd have made more money doing that than this garbage. And that's not the way it should be. Shitter, quote, what plans are you making to revive Libero? You won't get new investors if the old ones aren't happy. 99.7% down. Of course, people are going to FUD, and people aren't FUDing because it's the truth. Because you scam them. What he's saying is they're going to complain, but it's not FUD because it's the truth. FUD is false information designed to a detriment of something. Quote, don't invest until you see the team is actively working on Libero. They aren't doing anything at the moment. That's what I said. That's my stance. I'm not giving them any more money until I see they focus on Libero because it doesn't. If I get like a reward, like on the Libero Bank, it'll be like $1 or $2. I'll toss it in the miner because who cares? It's not enough for me to. I would get charged so much in gas, it doesn't make any sense to send it to the wallet, right? So sure, for that, fine. But like I purposely have not given them a dime more money directly out of box because I refuse to do it. Everything's off the rewards or everything's off of spare change or something else. The vast majority, I'll tell you, the vast majority of my money right now is in Everrise. That's the vast majority of my money. And then this new thing I just set up with KuCoin, and that's like all across the board. It's some Bitcoin and some Cardano and some other stuff and just a bucket, and the bot just does the magic that I would do, and then I've got Lunk. But the vast majority is Everrise because Everrise is the only, it just doesn't fail, right? And they're working to earn my money, and that's what I like. So, and then I'm waiting for a bull run. And when I see a bull run, I damn sure I'm not going back in Libero Financial because we've had minor bull runs. It hadn't made a difference. If I get the bull run I expect to do, the only project I would go in that's not one of my fave fives, for example, would be Rich Quack. And that's only because in the bull market, Rich Quack will easily 5X every damn time for quick profit things. Other than that, it's going to be in the bots on KuCoin or in my Everrise or one of my fave five because I'm not doing Libero until they focus on Libero, the token, absolutely. Kryptonic, quote, tell a scam channel if you ask too many questions to devs, you're mudded. He means muted. Hands up, mudded, muted. Guys, this was mentioned before. And then Dion said, well, it's if you ask too many questions, right? Yeah. So if you keep beating up the question, then you get banned from the telescam. And I said, I don't find it acceptable in any case because the reason that they're asking questions is because they're failing. How about you fix the failures so people wouldn't ask the questions? I personally don't think that banning is the right answer. And then that other joke I covered the other day, and they're talking about, yeah, we're going to mute the channel. There's too much FUD on this, and we're going to mute a cloud. That crap. Same thing. We're going to shut down the channel if you don't stop being mean. We're going to close it. Screw you, bro. And that's how I feel about LIBERO. That rhymes. So that's all I got here, man. If you're in the eco and you've heard me and talked and watched my stuff, and I appreciate you for being you, because as I said, it's a good community. But this isn't the kind of thing that's going to move the needle back up. Because think about it. Let's assume we're close to a bull run again. Let's assume we're getting back to some solvency. Let's assume that things are about to look up. We've had bull runs. This has not gone to significant green. It's not. So then, and LIBERO, correct me if I get it wrong. I'm asking you, correct me if I get this wrong. LIBERO still isn't on LBank, is it? It's still not on Bitmart, is it? I looked on LBank, I didn't see it. Bitmart, I haven't checked because Bitmart's crap, but I didn't see it on LBank. And I said, LBank's what you need. Remember, I covered this back in June, and they said, yeah, about June, we're going to have this on LBank. It still ain't done. And we're almost now in September. What happened? And to that point for the earlier, they're not doing anything. Well, why not? Because all they're doing is focusing on the miner and another shiny. And Thorium V3, which is yet another shiny. Epic Heroes been abandoned. Multiverse Capital's been abandoned. They're not getting any attention. All they do is retweet this miner garbage. I want the community, and I'm asking, seriously asking, tell me where Crypto Talk Radio is getting anything wrong of what I've been saying to be the truth since Q2 of this year. Tell me anything where I've gotten it wrong. Tell me anything where I've said something that was not correct or accurate about what's going on in the state of this business. Tell me anything that's where I didn't call it right down the straight because it was obvious because they let LIBERO get so bad. Now, I don't even see a path forward. And it's really unfortunate because there are other projects with, let's say, a quadrillion supply, 1 quadrillion. This one had 9 quadrillion in the max supply. That's pretty bad because the ones that have the 1 quadrillion, you see how long it takes for them to get any solvency. Now, it's not so bad if you have enough buy pressure. They don't have any buy pressure, and they're not going to have it as long as we have this type of chatter going on social media. And them getting beat up at Telescam and then just banning it, all that's going to do is make it worse. They're running from the problem. And the only thing I can forecast to happen as a result of this business is that they eventually quit. They eventually say, you know what? Screw this all LIBERO stuff. We're just going to focus back on Thorium or just spit up a brand new something. And then everything else goes by the wayside, just like they did with the Thunder tokens. Let's hope not anyway, but that's what I foresee. And once again, I'm sorry it happened, especially if you're waiting for something to happen. We've been waiting for months, man. At what point do we just simply say, these guys ain't got it? There's not much we can do because if you're locked in the bank, you're locked in the bank, and that was part of the fly trap, but that's not the way it should have been. And there was so much opportunity to stand out in a crowded space to be the one that was better than the other garbages that crapped out, because they crapped out for different reasons. They crapped out because they were garbage. LIBERO was actually one of the top. And for whatever reason, they made bad decisions that put us in this spot.